man, I'll tell you what, that dang old internet, man, you just go on there and point and click, get in there, talk about www, call me, you got that.
For some reason or another, you sounded a little taller on radio.
Well, for my money, he's got all the facial characteristics of a criminal.
Now, here's your host, that gravy sopping, crappie flopping, stump jumping, Bible thumping, gun toting, mater growing son of a gun, the Backwoods Baptist himself, Pastor Harold Smith.
Welcome to the Backwoods Baptist podcast. We got a good one for you today. We're on the scene, Jeferson, Georgia, Maranatha Baptist Church with their pastor, Richard Moon. You are one of the Backwoods Baptists that caused me to say we're taking this thing on the road.
I am.
Yeah, and we've taken turns whipping each other at fishing over the years.
We have done that a time or two.
Why don't you tell the story how we come to meet?
YouTube, of all things.
Yeah.
I don't even know how long it's been, Harold. How long has it been?
It's been a while. I started doing
8-9 years?
At least. Probably 10. I would guess 10 years.
Probably. I was just watching reloading videos and surfing YouTube and come across a channel called Preacher's Day Off, and I began to watch it, and I said, well, me and this guy have got a lot in common.
Yeah.
As far as hobbies.
Right.
And then I think you might have mentioned your name and maybe the church you pastored, and so I followed you up there just to see who I'm dealing with, and that's when I really found out all that we had in common was when I heard you preach your doctrine,
right,
your love for the Lord, and so I think I began to comment on some of your videos, and
yeah,
one thing led to another.
Yeah, I think when I first started doing YouTube videos, I was just starting to get into reloading about the same time. And so a lot of my early YouTube videos were just reloading videos.
Right.
And you also had a YouTube channel,
Yep.
Georgia Boy 44.
Yep.
So if I call you Georgia Boy throughout the video, it's just out of old habits die hard.
That's who I am.
Yeah. And so you would comment, and then I was watching your videos, and I don't think I put together that you were a preacher just right away.
Right.
And anyways, then somehow I figured out that you too were a preacher. Now, you might have mentioned something in one of your videos about being at church or going to church. And,
right.
And so then, well, the thing that gets me is, so I had Preacher's Day Off as a YouTube channel, and I just instantly started making friends all across the country.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I've stayed in people's home that I met through a YouTube channel.
Yep.
You know, and I've eaten with people. I've gone out of my way to meet with people, but I never. I don't know how to say it. I mean, I was like, man, these are my friends.
Right.
They just live 5 states away.
Yep.
You know, I need to go see these guys. I need to go. If I'm ever in that area, and I do a lot of travel, even when I was a pastor, I took 3 weeks of vacation every year. 2 of those usually required me to go out of state, because you can't be a pastor and take a vacation and stay home and expect to have a vacation.
You're not going to do it.
Your phone rings. You end up getting sucked back into the church for one reason or another. And so I would always just hit the road, and I like to drive, and I like to take road trips. And so I remember my wife and I one time surprised you on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I don't even remember where we were going. I do too. We were going to Charleston, South Carolina.
That's right.
And I said, hey, we can time this out right where we can go to church with Georgia Boy. And I'd never been to your church.
Right.
And I remember her and I walking through the doors, and you were coming out of the bathroom, and you was in a hurry. Church was about to start. And you saw the doors open up, and you just was walking and looked back behind you, and you looked back ahead. Then you spun back around, and you said, what are you doing here?
Surprise.
Yeah. And so we came in, and we went to church with you, and it was exactly what I expected. Of course, I pretty much knew your doctrine and knew your approach to ministry at that time. But the first time I think you and I actually met face-to-face, I just stopped, and we sat around your house. I think we had lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And we sat around and visited for a while, maybe a better part of a day.
Yeah.
And then I went on down the road. Then I came back, and we went crappie fishing across the road in the lake. And that was the day. It was probably the best day of crappie fishing I personally have ever had.
You should still feel bad about beating me so bad.
It was probably the worst day of fishing you ever had.
It was. I couldn't buy a bite.
I think you caught like just 3 or 4, and it was like I couldn't drop a hook in the water. I'd never had a day like that before or since.
That still hangs over my head, the shame.
Well,
in my own lake.
Well, I was like, gosh, if I lived across the street, I couldn't shut my freezer door. I'd have so many crappie in there.
Yeah.
And so you end up getting a boat.
Yeah.
And then I went out and spent a few days with Randy Bain in North Carolina. And he said, bring your best crappie rod. Or he said, bring your best trout rod. He lives on Trout Stream.
Uh-huh.
I hope to interview Randy one day next week. But he's like, bring your best trout rod. And so I did, and I brought a real light trout rod. And I'd called you, and I said, hey, when I leave there, I said, we ought to get together. And you said, just meet me at the boat ramp at Lake Hartwell.
Yep.
And you said, like, I got this boat. I'll take you out there. So I had packed an extra pole, just one to trout fish with, one to fish with you with.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what we was going to get into. Son, you took me out in that boat, and then you couldn't make a bad cast, and I couldn't buy a bite, and you was just reeling them in. And I was like,
the tide had turned.
Yeah, the tide had turned. So I just want to stay tied. I'm afraid to go fish with you again. You probably one-up me next time.
You just never know, do you?
What was funny about that first time is I remember it was like when the crappie are on. They're on.
Yep.
And I remember just holding my pole out like at the end, and it was like not a big pole. I mean, I held it straight out, and I was pulling fish in, and I thought, I don't want to leave. I want to call my wife and go, babe, I'm gonna stay another day.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna buy another 1-day Georgia license, and I'm gonna walk back across the street and catch.
Start over in the morning.
You just don't have days like that where you just sack them up. I mean, and that was probably, like I said, the best day of crappie fishing I've ever had. Day,
especially from the bank.
We did a video on that called Crappie Thumb.
Yes.
And like we zoomed in on my thumb was all ragged from lipping crappie. Oh, that was funny. What was funny about that, too, is I left here and I met a good friend of mine that used to go to our church, and his name's Gary Toney, and he lives just outside of Tupelo, Mississippi. And I drove from here to their house. I stayed the night with them the next day. And he said, I want to take you fishing. So we went over to, I can't think, his last name's Browning. I want to say John Browning, but that don't sound right.
Right.
Anyways, we went over to Mr. Browning's lake and fished. It was just a private lake. Put his boat in, went out and fished. And he said, what are you fishing with? And I said, I'm going to fish with this little Rapala minnow. And so I caught like 4 or 5, just bam, bam, bam. And I was like, well, dude, yesterday, nothing was biting this. And Richard was in the boat just hauling them in. Now here they are. And I was like, I got my touch back. He finally tied one on. He was like, all right, I've seen enough. I'm putting me one on. His first cast, he hooks a monster, breaks his line.
Oh, my goodness.
So we fished around, Gary and I, and we caught all these fish. And it was pretty even, you know. Mm-hmm. And so we got back to the boat, and Mr. Browning comes down there, and he's like, hey, what are you guys fishing with? And Gary's like, man, we're tearing them up on these little Rapala minnows. He goes, oh, man, you're not catching big ones. He ties on these big, long, like 13-inch worms, these big, giant worms. Mm-hmm. And we're throwing. He's got, like, some stuff buried. He knows where everything's at. So we're throwing way out there and fishing with these giant worms. And Gary, long story short, Gary gets a bite. And, he just rears back, sets the hook. He pulls in a legitimate 10-pound bass.
Oh, wow.
And Ron's going, this is what you catch with these big worms. It's Ron Browning. That's his name. Ron goes, this is what you catch when you fish with these big worms.
Yep.
We get the fish over. We lip it, get it up on the bank. It's got line coming out of its mouth. In its mouth is a Rapala minnow. He got his Rapala back. Yeah. And I said, well, if you got the right line, you can catch big bass on a Rapala minnow too.
That's right.
But Gary did. He caught I don't know. I've caught a bass probably close to 10 pounds once.
Yeah.
This was it was the kind of bass you don't just stick your fist in. It's the kind of bass you could reach inside and grab a small pumpkin and pull out. You know, it was that big.
Yeah, that's a big fish.
Yeah, and I was like, man, everywhere I go, people just out fishing me. I came home from that trip all dejected, but yeah, it's just stopping in here. And anytime I go through North Georgia, I try to find an excuse to stop in and say hello, and eat. You know, last time our wives got together, my wife was with me, and I just always enjoy it. I enjoy it because I enjoy you, and you and I'll text. Periodically, we'll call, and you follow the podcast pretty regular. Yep. And you're pretty good to comment, you know, if you see something, hear something that you want to speak to. And so when I thought, man, we need to take this podcast on the road, you was at the top of that list.
Well, it can only go downhill from here. So.
It ain't going downhill from here. Why don't you tell us how you come to pastor Maranatha?
Yeah.
Because you kind of entered the ministry backwards like I did. You didn't go off to seminary, come back and start your evangelistic ladder climbing to arrive here.
No. You know, I was raised in a Christian home, was raised in a more of a independent, fundamental, missionary type Baptist church. And, you know, as I think back now to those times, you know, there was a lot of topical preaching.
Yeah.
And it was not the kind of topical preaching that you and I might do if we did one today. It was basically take a text and launch and never return. Often there was a lot
kind you always have sermons for, you just can't find text for.
You just can't find the verse that backs up your message. And oftentimes there was a lot of heat to the sermon, but very little light. Yeah. But one thing that I look back on now is this would have been in the 70s and the 80s when I was growing up as a kid. In that church, never once did the idea that the Bible was not the Word of God cross my mind.
Right.
That was instilled in me.
Right.
This is God's Word. Man is sinful and depraved. Hell is hot. Eternity is long. And Jesus is the only way of salvation.
Right.
I got that. And when I look back, there's a lot of things I would say, well, that might have not been too good, but I'm thankful for what I did get.
Yeah.
And then when me and Brandy got married, we ended up in a larger Southern Baptist church. We spent 17 years there. Just your average, general, vanilla, middle of the road.
Sure.
And it was there that the Lord began to deal with me, and I was just encountering things in His Word that I wasn't getting answered really from nowhere.
And how old were you at that time? I mean, you said you've been married. You were in that church 17 years, so you're talking like you were 30?
Yeah, maybe about 30.
Yeah.
And I had a buddy outside of the church who was very influential, and as I began to ask questions about things that nobody around me was answering or wasn't given an answer that sufficed.
Yeah, right.
He started giving me books, and I would spend a lot of hours on the phone with him, and the Lord just began to do a work. And that was over maybe 10 years.
Right.
And I was doing about everything you can do in a Baptist church as a member. Property and space committees, cut the grass, fix the air conditioning, teach Sunday school.
He was being a good church member.
Serving as a deacon, and this desire to teach God's Word and to preach God's Word began to form in my heart. And, you know, I'm not the guy who says the Lord called me and I ran.
Yeah.
I kind of thought that was what was happening, but I was scared of it.
Right.
I didn't want to do something and then it not be of God.
Yeah.
That was my fear. I didn't want to touch it if I wasn't supposed to.
Right.
And time progressed, and I was teaching, I think, high school, Sunday school. And the kids would get up to leave Sunday school, and they'd be like, "That was a good message." And I said, "Okay."
That was really good. If teenagers are saying that was good,
that was a good message.
That was like a home run.
Yeah. And so that things began to change.
Right.
And I began to buy commentaries and you name it, which the average churchgoer isn't often doing.
Right.
And, doing Sunday evenings at church, covering for the pastor. And then this particular church here was without a pastor. And I have family, and still have family in this church. And they really didn't know what to do. They knew they kind of want to make a change, but they didn't know what to do.
Right.
And they had a young man in Bible college covering Sunday mornings. They wanted to know if I'd come in on Sunday evenings and cover Sunday evenings for them. And so I asked my pastor. He said, "Yeah, go help them." And so that's what I did. And I did that for, I don't know how long. I was just covering Sunday evenings, and I'd go back to my church. And I don't know, a month or two into it, the guy on Sunday morning had to go back to Bible school or Bible college. And he's like, "I can't do it no more." So they immediately asked me. So I go back to my pastor and, go down there and cover for him. And then after a couple of months, they said, we found our guy. And so they called me and ordained me to the gospel ministry right here in this church. I actually preached my first Sunday morning sermon in this church.
Right.
Never had done it before.
Yeah. So this is the only church you've ever pastored?
The only one.
How long you been here?
A little over 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a rarity that a guy preaches his first sermon, stays there 10 years. And, talking to Mike Stone the other day, he preached his first Sunday morning message in the church that he's pastoring. He's been there for like nearly 25 years as pastor.
Right, I saw
almost
that.
29 years on staff there. And when you think about going to a church and doing that, a lot of guys couldn't fathom that.
Yeah.
They're looking at a church and going, well, that'd be a great starter church.
Right.
And I always look at a church differently.
Yeah.
Was this kind of church I'd want to spend the rest of my life in. Mm-hmm. Of course, now in the ministry that I'm in now, I can't do that. You know, the Lord's made it clear to me I'm not going to be a long-time pastor.
Right.
He's uniquely gifted me to do something different, but I tell every pastor, man, don't ever look at a church as a transitional church.
Right.
Or just tell people up front you do what I do.
Right.
You know, just be honest and say, hey, look, I'm not going to stay anywhere longer than 3 years. I mean, there's a lot of Southern Baptist pastors, 5 years, longest they've ever been anywhere.
Yeah.
They've been in the ministry for 50 years.
Yeah. I think 18 months is the turnover on average.
Of pastors, yeah, because you have a lot of churches that just can't keep anybody.
Right.
You got church over here that had the same pastor for years, but there's just a constant shuffling around. And I think if you're going to have any real meaningful ministry, you've got to find somebody that can go there and stay.
Yeah. Yesterday we finished up 1 Timothy. We went verse by verse through it, and we finished with verses 20 and 21 where Paul's instructing Timothy to guard the deposit.
Yeah.
And I kind of took the church back yesterday through its history with me. And the excitement you get when you get a new pastor and let's do something. And I said, no, let's just take our time because this is going to take time. This is going to take some time.
Right.
And we went back through all that we've covered. And I remember when we started here, I said, give me 10 years.
Yeah.
Give me 10 years. There's no magic pill to take.
Right.
Give me 10 years to preach the word.
Yeah.
And yesterday we kind of focused on that.
And so are you right about that 10-year exact mark?
Yeah, here or there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I would say 10 years is really what it takes to make meaningful change.
It does.
I came to Lee Creek about 2 years in. The family that ran things did what they did about every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the church started going a direction they didn't like, so it's time to get rid of the pastor and get another one.
Yeah.
And but they lost that with me. And so I thought, hey, you know, I've won the Super Bowl, you know, I survived what no other preacher before me survived, but we really didn't do anything. I mean, nothing really happened. It took another couple of years to kind of get on track,
Right.
start implementing some real specific changes. But everything, it took a while to get the reputation that you want, you know.
That's right.
You can make change. A lot of times preachers come in, they change 10 things, and they're like, there, we fixed it. And everybody's looking at it from a distance going, son.
Same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You just put a different name on it.
Right.
You change the music, but the same people pulling the strings.
Yeah.
It really takes a decade for that to sink in, be implemented, and then say, okay, this is who we really are now. And
Yeah, you can come in and with the excitement of the church just getting a new pastor, you can implement new programs. You can paint the facility. You can create some committees.
Yeah.
You can give the church busy work.
right.
But all that's superficial.
Yeah.
It's like I said yesterday. It's like throwing a cup of gas on a bonfire. It looks spectacular for a short time,
Yeah, right.
and then it's gone.
Yeah.
If you want lasting change, there's only one way I know to do it. That's get in the pulpit week in, week out, preach God's word, love God's people, and give the Holy Spirit time to work.
Yeah.
Not only on them, but on you as well as a
Right.
pastor.
Yeah.
And if you can do that long term, you will see fruit.
Yeah. And it takes a while. I mean, I'm sure when you came here, I bet you the congregation looks drastically different today than it did 10 years ago when you walked into this church as pastor.
Right.
If you are going to try to arrive at biblical health, there's going to be some turnover. There's going to be some turmoil.
That's right.
You know, just in the last few
Sometimes
days.
when the Lord worked, you got to put some chairs up because you don't need them no more.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah, let's take a pew out.
Yeah, we don't need that one no more.
A lot of times the churches I'm working in, you know, as an interim pastor,
Yeah.
I don't want to name names of churches, but I walk in there and I'm like, you know, we need to do something to make this thing look like there's not three of us sitting on the front row.
Yeah.
And then it feels better to, I don't know, attendance ain't everything.
Right.
Response ain't everything. You know, we're doing this, we're doing it at the Lord's pleasure. But the fact of the matter is, when people walk into a church that seats 200, there's 8 people in it.
Yeah.
They've got an ultimate question in their mind.
What's
the
wrong?
elephant in the room is what's wrong here.
What's wrong?
And if you walk into a church that seats 20 and there's 8 people in it, you don't think, what's wrong here?
Right.
And if you walk into a sanctuary that could seat 200 and you only got 3 pews in it, they're like, what's wrong here?
Something's
you know,
up.
it's not that you disguise it. It's just that churches shrink. And sometimes when they shrink, it's a healthy shrink.
Right.
And it just takes time to build back. And one of the worst things I think a church can do is grow too fast.
Yeah.
I've seen that where, you know, there's a little bit of excitement and the excitement's really, like you said, gas on the fire.
Yeah.
And it flames up and it puts off a lot of heat.
Yeah.
And it burns up and then the excitement's gone.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I think people are kind of like moths. They're drawn to the biggest flame in the area, the biggest light. And a lot of times, a lot of growth that sometimes is really just people coming from other churches to be a part of the new thing.
Me too. Hey, me too. I want to go there. I want to be a part of that.
And I think it was, who was it, Vance Havner, who said, you know, if you win them with hot dogs, the church down the road will steal them with a T-bone.
Yeah, right.
You know, and so I think that's a lot of it.
Yeah.
But I think just faithful ministry, put down some roots, stay.
Yeah.
And endure and grow with the people.
Yeah.
Is the best.
Having a pastor for 10 years, the same place for 10 years, you build some bonds you can't build in 2 years, 3 years. You know, you learn things about people you wouldn't pick up in the first couple of years.
Right.
I mean, how many marriages last 10 years?
Right.
You know, these people went to the altar and said, I do for the rest of my
Forever.
life. Yeah. Nothing's going to tear us apart.
Yeah.
And then a couple years in, you find out things you didn't really know. That happens with pastors.
Yeah.
Churches, a couple years in, go, wait a minute, this is not what this is not what was advertised.
Right. You know, and I think that does happen. I also think, I know the Lord moves men.
Yeah,
He does.
Sure he does.
And you may go to a church as a pastor, and you may only be there 18 months, but not of any fault of your own, because they chewed you up and spit you out.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
And I think when that happens, the Lord was teaching him something.
Sure.
To move him on.
Sure.
But also, you look at the other side of the coin. I think some people look at the ministry and the local church as a stepping stone.
Yeah.
To something bigger and better. And it's the old saying is, it's funny how the Lord never calls a pastor to a smaller church for less money. It's
right.
always a step up for some reason. It never goes the other way.
That's right.
And so,
yeah, that's funny. Never calls them to a smaller church for less money.
yeah.
The way I look at that, you know, is the first church I pastored, I was there exactly 12 months.
Yeah.
I mean, to the day. And I did not want to leave there.
Yeah.
And I took quite a beating arguing with God that it wasn't time for me to leave.
Right.
And I called up an old pastor that I'd had in years previous. And
Mm-hmm.
he was out of the ministry. You know, he's getting later in life. And I was telling him everything's going on. And he said, hey, look, Harold, he said, son, God may want to move you. Yeah. You know, he said, your time may be up. Mm-hmm. Did God promise you're going to live here the rest of your life? And I said, no. He goes, well, then quit arguing with him.
Right.
And I was like, well, I think it would look bad if I didn't last longer than a year.
Right.
Well, God just got me down and rolled me around in the ground. He said, look, you can roll around on the ground as many years as you want to. You get tired of rolling around, I got something else for you.
Yeah.
That God didn't say that,
Right.
but that's ultimately the conclusion I came to.
Right. You leaving one way or the other.
I got tired of a couple of people in the church just kicking me in the gut over and over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Lord, I'm going to stay here and be faithful till you bury them.
Yeah.
And, but I wasn't commanded to stay there, you know. Mm-hmm. Instead, I had the opposite. I had churches just constantly peppering me, wanting my resume.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, okay. I sent one church my resume. That church called me, and churches quit asking.
Yeah.
Just that fast.
Yeah. I think one of the ways the Lord has kept me here, all the obvious things, he has united our hearts with these people here. We love them. They love us. This is where he's put me. I'm to stay till he moves me. But, you know, when I started sensing the call, I kind of looked around. I said, there's really no option for me to pastor. I can't go back to the independent church because of doctrine and some things that is not where I'm at.
Yeah.
The SBC, okay, they want 4 years of Bible college and an MDiv.
Yeah.
I'm 40 years old. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking there's really no opportunity. I'm going to end up in a church as a lay elder or ministering in the county jail.
Yeah.
And then the Lord shut doors and opened doors and did things that only he could do to put me here.
Yeah.
And when he does that, you need to stay.
Yeah.
Until he moves you.
So he just kind of walled you in at 40 and said, this is where you're going to be.
This is where you're going to be.
And then you've just been here.
Yeah. And I think I heard Brother Jeff Noblet over in Alabama once say of why he never left. Nobody else wanted him.
Yeah.
No other church wanted him at the time.
Yeah.
You know?
What was funny is, so at Lee Creek, when the coup was staged, hey, we're going to fire Harold. We got to go in a different direction. Church is not doing what we want it to do.
Mm-hmm.
I survived that, and the family that was opposed to me all left, all in unison. And I had a stretch there of about 2 months after that everybody and their brother wanted to hire me.
Yeah.
I tell the story in the book I'm writing about my experience at Lee Creek. That happened on a Sunday. I was already slated to preach in Oklahoma Monday night at a brotherhood meeting, which was just a bunch of men from all the various churches.
Right.
And it was a different association, different state. I went over there and preached, and I had 2 churches that were pastorless ask me for my resume. I survived the vote on Sunday. By Monday night, I had 2 offers, standing offers, and the director of mission said, "Son, you ever get fired, you call me, I'll have you preaching by the next Sunday."
Yeah.
And that was really just God kind of affirming to me, look,
Yeah.
I'll take care of you.
Right.
Well, then I expected, an explosion of growth. I mean, I always said, Lord, now that we got all the problems are gone, we probably ought to buy some chlorine, fill up the baptistry, and get ready. It's going to happen. And it didn't happen. It just kind of sat stagnant for years. Mm-hmm. And all I knew how to do was fight. I had like spiritual PTSD. Right. All I'd ever done was be in turmoil and church drama. And as those times went on, I can remember like wanting to go to other churches. I would find the biggest, meanest, ugliest church, and I would go to the director of mission and I'd say, "I want you to give my resume to them." And the guy would like, "Aren't you the pastor at Lee Creek?" "Yeah." He said, "Son, I wouldn't do that to you. You seem like a nice young man." And I was like, but all I know how to do is go into these big, ugly churches.
Right.
Well, now I don't want to say I go into big, ugly churches, but sometimes I do get called to big, ugly churches.
Right.
And I had to learn how to pastor church in time of peace.
Yeah.
And I think there's a big importance to, sure, you come in, you've got to make these major changes. There's a reason these churches are calling a first-time pastor. Mm-hmm. There's a reason Adrian Rogers didn't send in his resume. There's a reason that, the next up-and-coming preacher doesn't want to be here.
Right.
There's a reason why they settled for a guy with no other options like you or me. Mm-hmm. But as you're here and as you make those changes and survive that transition, we need to learn as preachers how to stay and see that through. A lot of times guys go in, they make a bunch of changes and go, "Man, this church stinks now, now that it's the what I wanted."
Right.
They don't want to stay. So they need to stay long enough and pastor all them people that they've drug in the door with their techniques.
Yeah. Well, like you, the Lord took you down the road he did to prepare you for what you're doing.
For what
now.
I'm doing now.
You got thick skin. You've been there. You've done it. You're gracious. You're in it for the long haul to help revitalize a church.
Right.
All right. I had a pastor friend ask me a while back. He says, "Okay, Maranatha is doing good now. Are you planning to move on?" I said, "No way."
Yeah. I don't want to fight that fight again.
No way. I'm in. This is a peaceful, united, loving church. We are all one in doctrine, one of accord.
Yeah.
There's no way I want to leave. The Lord would have to move me.
Yeah.
He would have to do it.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Towards the end at Lee Creek, as far as a pastor goes, I think I got pretty lazy.
Yeah.
It was so easy.
Yeah.
There was no fighting. There was no drama. There was no undercurrent. There was no group. There was no little clique over here and little clique over here, and they were yelling, right, at each other. I wasn't constantly having to go around put out fires. I mean, I showed up and I preached, and everybody said, "We love you, Pastor."
Yeah.
And I said, "I love y'all." And I would go home and fish all day and hunt all weekend and come back down to the church. But at the same time, the ministry I'm in now was building and the church was growing, but the church was an easy church to pastor. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of drama in it. And I guess I just kind of got complacent. Yeah.
It can happen.
Yeah, I got real complacent. And now I'm like, man, it sure would be nice to have a couple complacent days each week. Yeah. You get busy doing things, you get busy in ministry, but there's something to be said about a guy going in a church that's got some issues. You go in, you stay there long term, you deal with the kind of people that the church, produces over the years. Mm-hmm. And I say that because a lot of guys go in with these big, grandiose ideas.
Yeah.
They implement them, and then they're like, oh, crap, I didn't see this through.
Right.
Or I know several men that everywhere they go, they do the same thing.
Yeah.
And they start out on fire, and 5 years in, that's the worst church ever. And I'm like, dude, you own that. That was your doing. You created that mess.
It's your product.
Yeah, and you did it at the last church you were at. As a matter of fact, you just got a track record of everywhere you go, it ends up like this, and then God calls you back into evangelism. Or you go back to some other church, close to where you're from or whatever.
Right.
I just see guys doing that all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the Southern Baptist Convention is that example at large. This was their method of evangelism. These were the kind of converts they produced.
Yeah.
And when the chickens came home to roost, they claimed to have 16 million members at one time. Never had more than 3 million in church on any given Sunday.
That's right.
At some point in time, you got to own that and say, hey, what we were doing just wasn't working.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think other guys, they come in to a pastorate and maybe they want to do everything right, but they want to do it all in 6 months.
Yeah, right.
And it's the old bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
Kind of story.
I call those guys the Barney Fife of ministry.
Yeah, and they don't last.
No.
Those people don't know you. They have not grown to love you. They've not grown to trust you.
Yeah.
They've not seen you live it out.
Yeah.
And be faithful and preach the difficult text that know nobody wants to hear.
Yeah,
maybe.
right. Don't come in and start a series that you've gone through in the last 3 churches you've been in.
Yeah. But when they've seen you do all that,
yeah,
then and you give the Lord time to work, the changes will come.
Yeah, it's given the Lord time to work. It's not that God's a slow starter. Right. It's that he honors faithfulness.
Yeah.
And, he's not obligated to honor some Johnny-come-lately like Barney Fife. Here at The Rock,
yep,
we do things my way.
That's right.
There's a guy in our area, or my area, I shouldn't say our area. We're 14 hours apart. But there was a guy in my area, came to a church. It lasted 3 months.
Yeah.
But he showed up, and he just started implementing these crazy policies. I think he told all the Sunday school teachers, you can't teach Sunday school till you come in and sign the church covenant.
Yeah.
And so we've got a little grandma that's been preaching Sunday school for 60 years,
right,
as faithful as any member you've got in the church. And she's like, why do I have to sign a piece of paper to keep doing what I've been doing for 60 years?
Right.
I was doing this before your daddy was born, son.
Yeah.
Why is that necessary? What does that accomplish? I'm not against a church covenant, but why do you do that in your first 3 months?
Right. Why is that the hill to die on?
Yeah, what is this about?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, give me the logic behind this.
Right.
And, what are you going to do with that piece of paper?
You can fire from her Sunday school class.
Are you going to give it to the church's lawyer and say, okay, we've got 39, we've got 39% covenantal membership, so we can start enforcing some stuff.
Yeah.
It's just crazy sometimes, the stuff that preachers get into with that rapid, we got to fix it all overnight mindset.
Yeah. And a lot of times you can go in and you can make a lot of immediate changes and run roughshod, and the people just go along with it.
Yeah.
But they don't know why they're going along with it.
Yeah.
They don't own it. They don't see it in the scriptures. They don't see maybe we've been doing it this way, and that is clearly not the best way.
They don't see a biblical example for doing it this way.
And so they're just doing it because you said so.
Yeah.
And that's no good either.
That's a very good point, Richard.
That's no good either.
I remember going to a Sword of the Lord conference when I was trying to figure out what group I fit into. I said,
right,
these guys is old-timey. I'm going to Murfreesboro.
Mm-hmm.
And we were standing in line at the fellowship. They had a couple of preachers. We had a barbecue lunch and a couple of preachers, and I was standing in line with all these independent, fundamental, King James, soul-winning, suit and tie, white shirt, bus route,
yeah,
fundamental Baptist.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, hey, I'm here with my wife. This thing's going to wrap up at 2:00. What is there to do in Murfreesboro, Tennessee? And everybody just kind of, there's like 4 or 5 men, you know, and they're just kind of all looking like, do you want to say something? Nobody wants to say. I said, well, is there anything to see around here? And this guy goes, well, there's like Fort Murfreesboro, and I may have that wrong if you're in Murfreesboro. There's Fort something or another. And I said, oh, yeah, is it pretty neat? And he goes, we can't go there. And I said, you can't go to the fort? And he goes, well, they play that bluegrass music.
Oh, my goodness.
He kind of whispers it. And this other guy goes, and I don't really know what's wrong with bluegrass. And he goes, well, they play that music irreverently. And he goes, so they kind of frown at anybody going to anything at Fort Murfreesboro. And I was like, well, dude, Nashville's like 30 minutes that way. If you can't go to Fort Murfreesboro because they've got a banjo, Nashville must be the pits of hell, you know? Be. And so I was like, so what do you guys do around here? And they go, well, we pretty much go to church and work the bus route. And then while they were telling me all the stuff they couldn't do, one of the men just got Judgment Day honest, and he goes, I really don't know why we can't do these things, brothers. Right. And they were kind of, I was looking at the men of this church kind of wrestling with, and so one of the guys said, well, Pastor Franklin said we don't go to that, so we don't go to that.
Yeah.
And that stuck out in my mind to this day. I mean, that was probably 16 or 17 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I still to this day remember, these guys are just doing what they're told in the sword of the Lord.
Just doing what they're told.
Whatever the pastor says is pastor says.
Yeah.
That's not good enough.
Mm-mm.
It needs to be thus saith the Lord.
Thus saith the Lord.
Yeah,
they need to see things in Scripture.
Yeah, not one Bible verse twisted out of context.
Right.
You know, he that winneth souls is wise, therefore I'm a soul winner.
Right.
No, your word soul winner doesn't have the same thing that Solomon's talking about in the Proverbs. Right. So you need to have some biblical foundation for that. And that also takes more than 1 or 2 sermons and a couple years preaching. That's like you said earlier, it takes a decade of a pastor modeling that and preaching the hard text, preaching the easy text. And when they come to a familiar text, getting an honest and faithful sermon on it instead of just glossing over it. I can't tell you how many times people have heard an exposition of John 3:16, and the number one focus wasn't whosoever.
Right.
And then when they understood that what whosoever really means those who do,
right,
they're like, well, that changes everything.
Changes the whole thing.
Yeah. But you would never get that. And most churches, you'd hear John 3:16 preached 6 times a year at least.
Yeah. And 10 sermons on tithing.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Oh, man. But, I mean, I don't know. We can belabor all the problems and faults in a church, and there's just there's a benefit to staying somewhere long enough to see it through and carry it through that I just think can't be overstated.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And like you said, God clearly moves people.
He does.
And I don't dispute that. And there's a place for guys like me that don't stay.
That's right.
I tell them on the front end, I am not going to be your pastor.
Right.
And every church I've ever served is interim.
Yeah.
They've come to me and they're like, all right, we're ready to start looking for a preacher. Mm-hmm. Is there any chance you'll stay? I said, no. Mm-mm. I said, I'd love to stay and be your pastor. I love y'all. But I'd have to go apologize to all these people that have supported me in this ministry, all these churches
right.
and individuals that want to see the kind of work I do, the calling of the Lord upon me. I'd have to go apologize that, hey, look, I've changed my ministry up here, and I'm just going to stay here and pastor this church. I'm not saying God couldn't put me back in that, but there's always going to be the temptation to take it easy and settle down, and I just know that's not my calling.
Right.
And
well, yesterday I was thinking, as you were saying that, 1 Timothy 6, verse 21, the last thing Paul says to Timothy after that letter is, grace be with you.
Yeah.
If you're going to be in the pastorate long term at any one place and you're going to need grace.
Yeah.
Or if you go and do what you do and go from one church to the other, who may be without a pastor, who's had troubles, who's don't know which way to turn. And
right.
you're going to need grace. You are going to need God's grace.
Sustaining grace.
Sustaining grace.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because there's 1,000 straws, and any one of them could break your back.
Anyone, at any day. And if
Yeah.
you think you can accomplish any of this in the power of your own strength, you are fooling yourself.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a
You
very
are
good
fooling
point.
yourself.
Talking about, I'm going around doing these podcasts, but a big part of what I do is not just interim pastors. The preachers I interview, a lot of them call me, and I have to do what I call talk them off a cliff.
Sure.
They've walked out and they're like, "Hey, Brother Harold, I think today I'm jumping."
Yeah.
And so that don't mean like they're committing suicide,
Right.
but they're like, "Yeah,
They're at their wits' end.
what are you doing? I'm cleaning up my resume. I'm getting it up to date because I cannot do this anymore."
Right.
And I can think back to some of these guys. I've been talking them off a cliff for 15 years.
Yeah.
But it's like the one day at a time thing. And they never lose love for their people.
Right.
They just like, how do I go forward? They're
Right.
just, David felt this way.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with getting to the point like, life stinks running from Saul.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm just going to pretend to be out of my mind and go live among the Philistines for a while. I'm exhausted.
We're going to hide out.
I'm going to go hide out. Yeah, I've hidden in every cave.
Mm-hmm.
Saul keeps finding me. People keep, whistleblowers keep going, he's in the wood at Zinth. You got to go over there.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I think a lot of times pastoring, even if you're doing it right. Now, look, if you're just in your office and you study all the time and you've got somebody hired to do this and somebody hired to do that and you're the untouchable, you turn your phone on at 9, you turn it off at 3,
Right.
call me tomorrow. If that's who you are, you're a seminary professor, you don't understand what it's like to pastor a church.
Right.
If you're properly pastoring a church, you're going to get exhausted. You're going to get tired, burned out. Derek Melton and I talked about this at length. I remember that because I learned from Jeff Noblet that a guy needs to take time off.
That's right.
And in saying that, there's a lot of just, like you said, grace to keep going.
Yeah.
It's a hard job
It is.
if you do it right.
And one of the things I've noticed about you and your ministry, just to other pastors, is you kind of fill in the role of a pastor to pastors.
Yeah, I hear that
because
a
we
lot.
do get burned out, or
Yeah.
you get tired, or you get
Sure.
weary, or you get discouraged,
Yeah.
or whatever. And just the same way that the sheep need to be fed. Well, pastors are sheep too, and they need to be fed. They need a steady diet. They need encouragement. They need correction. They need all those things.
Yeah. A lot of them just need someone they can
Talk to.
vent to.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had some pretty well-known, prominent men in the ministry, men that would be nationally known men.
Right.
They would be known in our circles nationwide that have my number. And they'll call me up and they'll say, "Harold," oh, yeah. I said, "But brother, what's going on? I mean, like, why are you calling me?"
Right.
And they're like, "You don't live anywhere near me. You don't know anybody in our church. I've got something I've just got to verbalize to somebody else." And they will tell me, it's not gossip. I mean, they're just telling me, and they say, "And this is what I see, and this is the way I feel about it, and this is what I'm going to do."
Yeah.
Is there anything wrong with that? And I'm like, "Brother, that sounds exactly like what I would do just based on the information you've given me."
Sure.
And they're like, "Okay," because I can't bounce this off anybody that's involved.
That's right. And there are a lot of local church pastors who are in an area where maybe they don't have the fellowship that others may have. They don't have that other pastor.
They don't have that pastor's lunch where we put 15 or 20 preachers in a room every month and they make friends and they swap numbers. And
a lot of places don't have that.
Yeah.
But you still need somebody to talk with and to bounce things off of and to ask for prayer and wisdom, or like that brother did. Here's what I'm thinking.
And it's not that they view me as some kind of expert.
No.
It's just some situations you need to say what you're thinking out loud.
Yeah.
And then go, now that I said it, that sounds kind of dumb.
Yeah, I better not do that.
I better not do that. And it's not like I'm some counselor to the preachers, but
Right.
it's amazed me over the years how many times that I've got a phone call, not somebody I would talk to every day or even, every week or something, not somebody from my area. Just when I see that number, I'm like, what in the world's going on here?
Yeah.
And I'm like, hello? And then they're like, don't say anything, just listen. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. And I was like, well, yeah, I feel just the way you do. And they're like, okay, so I'm like, no, dude, that's it.
Yeah.
And some churches have multiple elders and they get in their little elders meetings and they do that. But believe it or not, I've had a ton of guys that have multiple elders call me with problems with, don't say this in certain Reformed circles, they're elders.
Well, other elders.
Yeah, believe it or not, elders can go bad too. They're not above the law.
That's right.
They're not above sin. And sometimes within those little elder meetings, elders need advice on how to deal with elders. Is this a Matthew 18 level? Is this a 1 Corinthians 5 level sin?
Right.
Or is this something we just need to kick around? I mean,
meet with the brother on.
yeah.
Pray for
And
him.
if you've got 3 elders in a room and 2 of them have teamed up on the other elder, he may say, Brother, am I out of line to oppose these 2 guys to the bitter end?
Right.
And I'm like, not in my mind.
Right.
Or yeah, you're being petty, big idiot. That's why the 2 guys are telling you, everybody needs somebody they can do that with.
Yeah.
And usually it's not the guy that's pastors the church next to them.
Right.
Because there's the big fear. Well, you don't want to know what's happening up on Ebenezer Church Road.
That's right.
They're afraid of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody needs that kind of guy because those kind of things, a pastor's kind of a lonely life, man. I have so many secrets from people in the church, from counseling, that I can't share with anybody. Not some of it, not even my wife.
Yeah.
I can't tell her. And it's not that I don't trust my wife.
Right.
It's just that this would change how she viewed somebody, and she don't
stops with me.
Yeah, she don't need this burden on her life that I carry.
Yeah.
And so when you start carrying around that kind of baggage, we've talked about Jeff Noblet a few times, and man, I think Jeff Noblet is the most undervalued, underrated pastor of a large church in America today.
I agree.
And mainly because he's not on social media, making posts, writing quotes every day, and publishing books. Yeah. He's pastor in Grace Life Church of the Shoals.
Faithfully.
And
just
for
down
years.
roots
For years.
And going forward.
And he's not looking at next year, he's looking at the next 20.
Yeah.
Jeff has taught me so much, and one of the things, that he's talked about is when you're counseling someone, no matter how good your marriage is, when you get involved in some real marriage counseling, it's like you've had a problem in your marriage.
Yeah.
When you talk to someone about suicide, it's like, man, I want to die too. Yeah, you know what I mean?
You're in the ditch with them.
Yeah, if you're doing it right, you're getting dirty with them. Yeah. Not participating in their sin, but the drama level.
Yeah.
People always ask me, I guess you've seen the movie, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I don't watch movies. Yeah. And they're like, you don't watch movies? I'm like, very rarely watch movies.
Right.
Why? I said, man, they tear me up. I don't need that kind of drama.
Yeah.
I watched the old Western the other night, 1980. Tom Horn. Did you ever watch Tom Horn?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've always heard about Tom Horn. I've even read a few little bios of Tom Horn. And about him being wrongfully convicted. Well, I watched a movie, Tom Horn. My wife was in the living room. She was doing something on the computer and her laptop or something, and I was watching Tom Horn. And, man, one old I can't think of the old guy's name, that big heavy-set fella that played in a lot of Westerns, and he's playing the sheriff, and he's walking Tom Horn out to hang him.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, Tom, he says, where I got to leave you? And Tom's like, hey, I'm going to try to do this dignified. You do the same, you know. And I'm sitting there, I'm crying. I'm like, I'm watching a movie, a fictional movie based on a true story about a guy that probably deserved to die for some other reason or another. He's a Christian, you know. He's got all these Indian charms in his hand. He's probably some kind of spiritualist.
Yeah.
Probably has no hope of heaven.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there crying because when he come out of his cell, there's a Catholic priest behind him. And I'm like, that Catholic priest ain't helping him. You know, what's he going to do? I mean, this guy's going to go to the hang. They could have at least got a Baptist preacher that said, let me share with you about your sin and the solution to it.
Right.
And it's not an eagle claw and a cactus leaf and whatever else you got in your pocket.
Some rocks.
Yeah. Let me tell you what real salvation, nobody shared that with Tom Horn. I'm not saying he didn't hear it,
right?
But I'm saying in the movie, I'm sitting here watching this movie. It's a made up movie. It's fictional. Tom Horn's getting hung for a murder he didn't commit.
That's right.
Because the cattle rustling's been down and this guy wants to be governor and he wants to prosecute him and they want to hang this on the last of the old cowboys.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there crying going, man, somebody should have preached the gospel to Tom Horn, not this stupid Catholic priest. And they hung Tom Horn, an innocent man. And I'm like, this is why I don't even watch old Western movies, man. I can't even watch a Western no more. And I knew Tom Horn hung, and in real life, he weaved his own rope that they hung him with, you know. But I'm just like, I don't need that kind of drama. No. Well, why not? Because I've got the drama of a bunch of other stuff floating around my head.
Right.
My cup's already.
Real issues.
Yeah, I'm already about a quarter inch from the top of this red Solo cup of real issues.
Yeah.
I don't need
real lives.
Yeah.
In real time.
Sure. I don't need Tom Horn, you know. Yeah. Even though I loved the movie, it was great. You ought to go watch it. You ought to cry at the end. I try to deal in real. Yeah. I don't watch TV. Yeah. I don't watch the news because I try to deal in real.
Well, that's a depressing subject, isn't it?
You know, I've started listening to a lot of news podcasts and mainly on trips. I don't listen to them every day, but if I'm on the road, like I think I had about 5.5 hours from Nahunta. Well, I was out towards Riverside and Hickok, but I had about 5.5 hours from there to Jeferson. And so I've listened to a lot of podcasts. I made a lot of phone calls because I haven't had a cell signal for the last few days, consistent cell signal. So anyways, I made phone calls and I listened to podcasts, but I was listening to Tucker Carlson, and he was talking about Jeffrey Epstein. And they were talking about, you know, the abuse, sexual abuse that Epstein was so involved in. But they were talking about all of these other people in our government that are like 1 degree, not from Epstein, but other sexual abusers. Then he had Candace Owens on there, and she's talking about all this sexual abuse in the government. And not just our government, global government. And then I listened to J.D. Hall on Insight to Insight, and he's just kind of compiling. I think he was listening to a lot of the Tucker interviews with, I don't remember the guy. His last name was Cooper. Anyways, this Mr. Cooper fella and Candace Owen. And anyways, he was kind of compiling that and then putting some of his own study in it. But he was saying, look, this child sexual abuse thing, he said it's not so much sexual as it is demonic. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to that, and I was thinking about that, and I was like, you know, if I've got to deal with what's going on in the world, I'd rather be processing something like this, understanding it properly, seeing it for what it is, calling it out for what it is, than I would be watching some stupid movie with Vin Diesel in it, and I just don't have time for it. Or some, you know, and I used to love to watch comedies till I became a preacher. Yeah, I used to love to watch funny movies, man. Yeah. I mean, all the time. I loved them. Now I'm sitting here watching. I'm like, this is stupid. I ain't got time for this. I got
bigger fish.
I got spiritual things I could be doing. Yeah, and I just can't hardly watch TV. So I try not to watch the fake news. Right. I try to watch some unbiased news. I stay away from Fox News. I stay away from And like I said, I don't listen to Tucker all the time. Just occasionally if something interests me. I'll listen to Joe Rogan's podcast, depending on who he's interviewing. At least I listen to it till my F-bomb meter pegs out.
Fills up.
And then I can't take any more. Or they start dropping GD, and then I'm done. But I don't know. I just, because you carry around so much of that, I don't know how people who are counselors do it.
Yeah, that would be tough.
Yeah. And especially if you're a secular counselor, all you've got is a secular.
Well, you've got really no hope to offer anybody.
Yeah,
you're
right.
A secular counselor.
Yeah. And I don't know how they do it, man.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now, you had mentioned you were going to stop at E.M. Bounds.
I did.
Did you get to stop there at his grave?
Yeah, I stopped in Washington, Georgia, which is about an hour and 20 minutes from here. Hour and 30 minutes from where we're at. I didn't know much about E.M. Bounds. I saw his name dropped a lot. I saw a lot of E.M. Bounds quotes. I knew he was famous for prayer.
Yeah.
But till I started really studying prayer, I never really. Most of my reading is biographical reading. Most of what I've learned doctrinally, I've not learned from reading doctrinal books.
Right.
Most of what I've learned eschatology-wise is not from studying eschatology.
Right.
It's from studying the people.
Right.
And I would study people in the past and not agree with their eschatology. And I'd be like, well, that was weird. And I was like, well, okay, I understand why they believe that, because this was the era they lived in. This is what they could see. This is what they did. And then as I began to study different people, I just kind of progressed. I never studied the Dark Ages. I'm not back reading about the Donatans and all these other, reform type groups that cropped up. I don't even like reading really. I just like Baptist history mainly. Because when I start reading Luther, I'm like, well, that's stupid. Martin, don't you realize? Well, no, he's figuring it out,
right.
Well, I have the benefit of seeing some guys that have already, kind of put it all together. So I study Baptist history, and I start picking up on doctrinal positions from them. So I never study prayer.
Right.
I never study eschatology. I never study, systematic doctrine. It's never been my thing. People give me books. I try to read them. I fall asleep. I'm like, it's not for me.
Yeah.
So, but I like biographies because I'm like, I'm
reading about somebody.
I'm reading about somebody. This is a story. It's a progression. It's not 27 Bible verses in one topic. That's not me. So I was reading a book, and I mentioned it on the podcast on Ravenhill, Leonard Ravenhill, Light of Eternity. Guy's got a lot of stuff I don't agree with, but
Sure.
I see where he's coming from. I've got him in the context. If you want to understand somebody, you got to understand the time they live in. This is our problem today. Everybody wants to throw George Washington out because he had slaves.
Right.
Hey, bud, every wealthy planter had slaves. Nobody saw anything wrong with that.
Right.
We're in a time now where abortion's legal. Yeah. I think 3-4 centuries down the road, if there's some kind of Christian revival, if we took your logic, everybody that had an abortion would have their statue torn down and crushed to powder and melted. Yeah. There's sins that are acceptable in society. And that's, I don't judge people for that. Right. And so reading Ravenhill, I'm not saying he was sinful, but he had elements of his ministry that I was like, wasn't okay with. But
right.
Seeing where he was and what he dealt with, I understand how he got there. But Ravenhill was one thing. He was a man of prayer. Yeah. He preached, God used him to do great revivals that lasted months, but all that flowed out of the prayer. So I was like, man, I gotta learn more about prayer. Prayer's where I'm weak. That's an element of my life I just haven't. So also I've studied Hudson Taylor. I've studied George Mueller. Every time I read those guys, they knew things about prayer I didn't get. Right. I didn't know. And Bounds always pops up, later on in the 19th century or 20th centuries. E.M. Bounds is the predominant prayer writer. So Ravenhill had this book on Bounds called A Treasury of Prayer, where Ravenhill took 7 of Bounds' books on prayer, condensed them, made 7 chapters in one small book.
Right.
So I thought, well, that's me, because I don't like reading these doctrinal books, so I'm going to do that. So I bought that book, and I was like, Bounds was a Methodist. Do I really want to be getting theology from a Methodist? I say that tongue-in-cheek. My son married a Methodist minister's daughter, and so she's a member of the Baptist Church now, and I'm sure Dad probably holds that against my son a little bit.
He probably does.
Yeah, but still yet, I've got some real disagreements with the Methodist Church.
Sure.
Even the Methodist Episcopal Church of the late 1800s and early 1900s, their Arminian eschatology, their Wesleyan thought and mine are different. Do I really want to learn prayer from him? Right. So I thought, I got to do a little background on E.M. Bounds. I read like a one-page bio. I know this is a long story that's going on, but you asked me about the grave, and I want to tell people why I'd walk out in a cemetery and look at a tombstone. This is why, because I don't normally do this. But Bounds was born in Missouri, and he was smart, super smart. Matter of fact, at the age of, I think, 20, may be wrong, maybe it's 22, he became a licensed lawyer of the bar. He was the youngest lawyer in Missouri, okay? And he practiced just outside of St. Louis somewhere. And he was very successful. Even as a young man, I mean, he was very, very good. Well, he gets called into ministry. He's like, law's not my thing. I should be a preacher. This was all in the 1850s. So Civil War breaks out. Yeah. Missouri's one of those states that half of them go Confederate, half of them go Union. There's Confederate Missouri armies. There's Union Missouri armies. They split. So when the federal troops come into St. Louis, they've got 150 what they call political dissidents that they need to round up and get them to swear an oath to the Union, not to criticize them, and then give them a $500 bond that they won't do this.
To say they won't.
To say they won't.
Yeah.
So on that list is this young preacher named E.M. Bounds.
Yeah.
And he's a Methodist preacher, and he's a lawyer, and he's well-spoken, but he didn't want to get involved in the war.
Right.
He just wanted to be a preacher. Well, they come and arrest him. And they said, okay, sign right here that you never criticize the Union or Abraham Lincoln or, whoever the general was, and you'll swear allegiance to the current general that's over. And he said, no preacher should swear allegiance to anything like this.
Right.
And he said, so number one, I'm not going to swear allegiance to anything other than the Bible and my Lord. And number two, I don't have $500. I'm a Methodist preacher.
That's right.
And so they said, okay, well, fine, you can go to prison. So if you're sitting here thinking everybody fighting in the Confederate armies to keep their 100 slaves,
that
was not the case. This man didn't have any slaves. He was a preacher, but he was on a list of people we need to round up and get them under our thumb.
Well, he had a platform.
He had a platform. So they took him into a war prison. He ends up getting transferred to Memphis. He's kept as a prisoner of war. The guy's never taken up an arm. He's never even preached against them. He's just on a list, a government watch list.
Yeah.
So
we're probably on one of those.
They send him, yeah. If you're a Backwoods Baptist, you're probably on there.
Probably on there.
That might be a subsegment of the people they have listed. But I'm telling you it's a big, long story because it's important to me, and I may not get to tell it anywhere else. But so anyways, E.M. Bounds gets transferred to Memphis. Well, then they have a prisoner swap with Arkansas, of all places. And so Arkansas's got a bunch of Union troops they've captured. They don't give troops back. The Yankees give back people like Bounds. He's not even taking.
He ain't toting a rifle.
Yeah, he's not toting a rifle. But Bounds gets out of prisoner of war camp in Memphis, and he gets out a decided Confederate soldier, and he knows a general that was rounding up troops in Missouri to fight against the Union, and he said, I'm from Missouri. I got to go find my general. He walks to Pine Bluff, Arkansas. He finds a farmer there, and he says, hey, I want to buy a mule on credit. I'm a Methodist minister from Missouri. I've been locked up as a prisoner of war. I'm trying to find General so-and-so of Missouri. I want to join his infantry. So he says, I'll give you $200 for the mule if I survive the war. Farmer says, sounds good. Puts him on the mule. He rides the mule somewhere off in Mississippi finds the Confederate general from Missouri, joins the 3rd Infantry of Missouri in Mississippi, starts fighting his way back through Mississippi, gets up around Murfreesboro somewhere, and I'm reading these accounts of the troops. You know, most of the chaplains are at the tents.
Yeah.
They're caring for the wounded. They're praying over the sick people.
Yeah.
They're leading them in prayer, and then they go off to battle, and then wherever the next camp is, the chaplains come in. No. He's marching up front with the troops. He's standing on the front line, shoulder to shoulder with the soldiers.
Putting a preacher in prison for no reason will do that, I guess.
I guess so. Well, while he's near Murfreesboro somewhere in Tennessee, he takes a saber blow to the head.
Yeah.
Now, if you're taking a saber blow to the head, you are under a cavalry charge or you're in some kind of hand-to-hand combat.
Hand, yeah.
And if you're a chaplain, you're walking around with a cross on your chest, you know, and somebody's hitting you with a sword, you're probably not standing there reading the Psalms during the battle. Right. You probably are engaged in something they're trying to stop.
Yeah.
So the saber blow to the head disarms him. He gets captured. He gets doctored, and he's in this Union war camp. And they force him, he's a chaplain, so they force him to dig graves. And he digs these mass graves, just big trenches, and they're just throwing all the dead in them. And then they cover them up. Well, they're taking names of who all's in there. Fast forward, the war ends. He gets paroled out. He moves to take a church where that prisoner of war camp was. He leads a campaign to raise money to buy the farm that all those men are buried on.
Wow.
And he digs them all up and buries them in individual graves by name. He gives them all an individual burial.
Sure.
And I thought, man, that is just amazing.
It's unheard of.
That's unheard of. I think he raised like $700.
Yeah.
And in the post-war South, $700 to buy a field with dead bodies in it is an astronomical amount of money.
Right.
And then to lead the campaign to go over and dig all these men up and exhume their bodies and give them proper burials and identify them and, you know who they were. And I thought, man, that's just crazy. So then I saw a picture of his grave, and it says Captain Chaplain, 3rd Infantry, Missouri. And I was like, where did he die at? Well, he's buried in Washington, Georgia. His home where he lived, that's where he lived the latter part of his life. His home there is the City Museum. And so it's closed on Monday, or I would have went in there. It's Monday today. Right. We're recording this. I would have went to the museum and just looked around and saw it, because I was told that in the upstairs bedroom, in his closet, the floor has 2 grooves where in the closet where he kneeled every morning and prayed for hours. Yeah. I wanted to see that. I don't know if that's true or not. I wanted to see that.
It could be. I have several of his books, but I never knew he finished up life and was buried in Washington, Georgia. And I even saw a quote from Spurgeon, and maybe you did, where even Spurgeon mentioned in one of his sermons at the Metropolitan Tabernacle that he just shouted out, there's a man in Washington, Georgia who's prayed a hole in heaven.
Yeah.
And his name is E.M. Bounds. So
yeah, and Spurgeon died in like 1880 or something like that, and then Bounds lives to 1913.
Yeah.
And I think only 2 of his books were published in his lifetime.
Yeah. Most of them came after.
Most of them were compiled afterwards.
Next time I'm in Washington, I'm stopping.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Let me tell you, I drove around the cemetery. I thought I'd be here about 12:30, but I drove around the cemetery for a while and trying to find the grave. I had a picture of it. I could never find a pin like go here.
Right.
Instead, what I would find would be a picture of someone saying, I'm at the grave of E.M. Bounds, Clarence Sexton, from up at Chattanooga somewhere. He put a post on Facebook. Of course, he's passed away now, but I was seeing pictures of him a few years ago saying, this man influenced my life. So I'm looking at the picture, and I'm like, all right, there's a tall spire stone leaning to the right. Over here's kind of a big blocky stone. And so I'm driving around trying to spot, and I was like, well, there's some crepe myrtles in this picture. And that's literally how I found it.
Really?
There's some crepe myrtles here. There was a big, tall spire stone way back in the back, and I kind of triangulated. I said, it's got to be over there. And I walked over there, and I could see in one of the pictures a little brick edging, because some of them have stone or marble, depending on how wealthy they were. And it's him. I think it's him and his wife. His first wife died. I think it's him and his second wife, and I think a son is buried there, and then maybe a couple of grandkids are buried. It's a little like a family, little square family plot. But I may have that wrong. Maybe daughters and sons, and I don't know what all's buried there. But he's there with, it's got a little brass plaque that says Edward McKendry Bounds, minister, writer. That's a bronze plaque stuck in the back. And you walk around the front, it says when he was born, when he died. And then at his foot is another, like a footstone, that says Edward McKendrick Bounds, 3rd Missouri Infantry, Confederate States of America. And then you go around the backside of that, and there's a bronze Confederate soldier plaque stuck in the ground by that. So I noticed another Confederate soldier was buried not too far, just on walking back to the car.
Right.
It had a totally different marker. I think the Sons of Confederate Veterans go back and add those afterwards, and so
Probably
different
so.
years you get different, different stones. But I don't know. It was a old stone. So, but I liked it, man. I mean, it's not like I like walking around in graveyards, but what it did for me was I walked there and I thought, okay, what did this man do with his life that would make me 112 years later walk through rain wet grass out into a graveyard in a town I've never been in and look at his stone? I'm like, the guy did something for the Lord. He left an impact that was beyond his generation. So right there, I just bowed my head and I said, Lord, I'm not worshiping E.M. Bounds.
Right.
Nor am I praying to him.
Right.
But I'm looking at the burial spot of this man, and I'd like to do something that transcends me.
Yeah.
I'd like to leave something behind that would benefit believers long after Harold Smith's gone.
Yeah. Something that'll last.
Something that'll last. Yeah, I don't want to just, major on the frivolous.
That's right.
I don't even want to go and work in churches that are just going to fold and flop 5 years after I'm gone.
Yeah.
If that's all if this is just a burnout thing, something that I'm doing, one of the things I've had to learn is churches die. None of those 7 churches in Revelation still there.
They're not around.
You do this or I'm going to take your candlestick out. Well, they didn't do it, and their candlestick went out.
That's right.
Churches are living things. They die, and they can be killed.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about it, I was thinking about Spurgeon's Metropolitan Tabernacle, still there today.
Mm-hmm.
What's that fella's name that's the pastor there?
I don't know.
Masters. I think it's something Masters. I've drawn a blank, and I know it. I should know it. I've got some of his books at the bookstore. I think it's Peter Masters. Anyways, the Metropolitan Tabernacle's still there. It looks the same, but it doesn't have 3,000 people in it anymore.
Right.
It's got a little handful.
Yeah.
And that's the same church that John Rapon pastored. That's the same church that John Gill pastored.
Yeah, it was Gill's church.
That's the same church that was at Horse Lie Down.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the same body moved to a different location, built a new building.
Right.
It was the new Park Street Chapel. Then it was the Metropolitan Tabernacle. With all that storied history, and with this pastor there, it's just shrinking. It's not what it once was.
Right.
If something doesn't happen, that Metropolitan Tabernacle will be a museum or a library.
I think I just heard where the Spurgeon's Pastors College
It's closing.
is closing.
Yeah. So that got me. I mean, after I left there, I had about an hour and 20 or 30 minutes driving up here, and I had a couple phone calls to make. But when I pulled out of that cemetery, I was thinking, what could I do that would help Christians after me? I mean, I believe the church, as Jeff Noblet would say, is how God gets supreme glory.
Yeah.
But even if I pour myself into a church, that church is probably going to close. Eventually. You know, they just don't live. Now, the church itself as a body of believers, we're not talking local churches, we're talking the redeemed of all time. That's never going to go away.
Right. The gates of hell will not prevail.
They'll not prevail. But you can go to any landmark missionary Baptist and say, hey, all the old links are gone. We can walk around the Alps. We can't find those. Yeah. You know, they sent out missionaries that planted churches, and those churches died, and it's a constant springing up of a new crop.
Yeah.
So, I want to say this. I don't know how we got off on this, Richard, but I remember sitting in Phil Johnson's office, and he still is the executive director of Grace to You, John MacArthur's media ministry, and he edits all MacArthur's books. And I was talking to Phil Johnson, and I said this. I said, man, it's about the church, Phil. I said, it's about Grace Community Church. It's not about John MacArthur. It's not about the books. It's not about the ministry. The Lord builds churches. And he was like, oh, okay, Harold. Just kind of let that go. And but I mean, I had zeal for the church. It's the church. Sure. And you should have that kind of zeal for the church. But in reality, I'm thinking about this, and I come to this conclusion a year or so ago, and I need to text Phil and apologize to him, but I'm going to apologize publicly on the podcast right now. There is still a great degree that Phil Johnson's doing something that probably going to transcend, if the Lord doesn't return soon, probably going to transcend Grace Community Church. Couple of centuries, maybe even 100 years, Grace Community Church can close and fold up. Those John MacArthur commentaries that are sitting on everybody's shelf are still going to be in print. There's still going to be digital media. Grace to You itself may close, but those books are still going to be in print. I looked out here on the book table in your foyer, and there's a copy of Pilgrim's Progress.
Yeah.
First published in what, like the 1600s?
Yeah. It's been a while. It's been a minute since Bunyan penned that one.
The church he pastored's closed.
Yep. Bunyan's buried.
So I was like, Lord, do I need to write books? Or are paper books going to be a thing of the past and I need to do more digital podcasts? I mean,
right.
What is it? You know, I remember a time when, hey, don't put that on tape. You put that on CD if you want it to last. Okay. Right. Who's got a CD player anymore?
Right.
I don't know what the next media is going to be, but I still have a zeal for local churches and their health. But at the same time, I want to do something that benefits the health of local churches long after I'm gone. I want to do something more than just what I can do bodily in one place.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's something that's what visiting a grave of somebody like E.M. Bounds will do. It'll make you think about things that you would normally think about.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Phil Johnson, for acting like, Grace Community Church is more important than editing John MacArthur's next book. They're both important.
Yeah.
And not everybody's Phil Johnson who edits books.
That's right.
I can't do that. So he's uniquely gifted to do that. He needs to do it to the best of his ability. He still serves as an elder in a church. It's not like he's some kind of parachurch out here, on the outside looking in. He's still active in a local New Testament church as well. But, we never even talked about our sponsor today.
No, we didn't.
And
you want to tell them about it?
Yeah, that sitting in front, if you're watching this, and I'll pick it up and model it and demonstrate it here. Sitting in front of the mixer board is the powder that heaven sent us.
That's right.
This is IMR 3031 smokeless powder. IMR stands for something military. Improved military rifle. That's right. It's basically, we believe, what are used in some military cartridge calibers. IMR 3031 is a very consistent, accurate, and versatile, and that's what I love about it, versatile powder. So when I started to call you Georgia boy, when Richard found me, I was on YouTube reloading as many calibers as I could accurately in the guns that I had with 30-31. And so what I did, I got some 30-31 given to me, and all I was reloading was 223.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to shoot. Just want to shoot 223. So, no, I'm sorry, 243. All I want to shoot is 243. It's what a deer hunt with, what a coyote hunt with. I don't want to sink a bunch of money in this reloading hobby.
Right.
So I started reloading this 243, and man, I was shooting these like just one ragged hole at 100 yards. I was like, I could never do that with store-bought ammo.
Right.
So I had a AR that was like a real match-grade AR, and I said, hey, I need to get some stuff to shoot reload 223. I'm just going to reload 2 calibers. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
The guy at church, Bob Beckus, you all right? You comfortable?
I'm good.
Okay. If your back's hurting you, I don't want to throw you back out for a week, just you and I sitting here.
No, I'm good.
So I'm going to tell another long story. I know we're here to interview you, but you got me telling these crazy stories. So I was just going to load 223. Well, come to find out, the powder that shot best in my 243 was 30-31. So it ended up being the powder that shot best in my 223. So I was like, man, I just bought like 2 or 3 pounds of this one powder. I was like, that's really all you need. So I did some YouTube videos on how to load for 223, most accurate load for 243. Well, I had a 30-06 I got for graduation from high school.
Right.
And I hadn't hunted with it in a few years. And I thought, hey, I found an old load for 30-06. So my most popular reloading videos are reloading 223, reloading 30-06, and reloading 243 with 30-31 powder in all of them. So people start watching these. I mean, these videos got like 60, 80, 100,000 views, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm fully into reloading. I'm reloading everything I can reload because I can reload it. This is back when reloading was cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a 308. I got my 30-31 powder out. I started loading for it. I got a 22-250. I got my 30-31 powder out. Started reloading for it. Got a 300 blackout. I mean, these cartridges are drastically different.
Yeah.
But I could find load data somewhere.
For everyone.
And I would shoot everything from a 300 blackout with a 30 caliber bullet to a 223, 22-250, 243, 308, 30-06. Seems like I'm forgetting one in there that I had. But anyways, all these with that one powder. So everybody would kid me like, the guy's only got one powder,
That's
you know?
Right. It works.
And so when I got here, I had a present waiting on me. You had me a pound of 30-31.
That's right.
This stuff is black gold. It's not oil. It's this right here.
That's right.
This is a premium stuff.
I've loaded everything from 223 to 45-70.
Yeah.
With 30-31.
You know what was funny? You bring up 45-70. I was in a reloading store. It's really in a guy's basement. It's like his little side job. He sells reloading supplies out of his basement. I was in there walking around. This other guy come in. I was talking to the owner. I mean, he literally gets his Labrador, walks him down the stairs, lets him out in the backyard, and opens the door for you to come in. So we sitting in there talking, and this guy come walking in, and he's kind of squinting, looking at me, and I'm like, what's this guy keep looking at me? Is he going to rob the place? He's going to rob the reloading store or something? Because he's kind of acting weird. He said, I know you. I can't place you, but I know you. And I said, you know me? And he's like, where do you work at? And I said, I'm a preacher. I don't know any preachers. He goes, wait a minute, I do too. Your preacher's day off.
That's where he knew you.
And I said, yeah. And he goes, I watched all your reloading videos. You're the reason I buy 30-31 powder. He said, I shoot 45-70.
Yeah.
And he said, it is the absolute best powder I've ever shot in 45-70.
It's all I load.
Do you load your kids 243 in that too? Mm-hmm. Yep. With 100 grain spear bullets?
100 grain spear.
Yep. That is the most lethal load.
It piles them up.
I mean, they don't flinch, man.
Yes.
Ozark Spirit and I went hunting and together, and I shot a doe on camera at like 130 yards with 100 grain spear bullet, this right here. And I mean, it looked like somebody hit her with a sledgehammer.
I know it.
And my son shot a deer, 10-point with it. and you thought he hit him with a 300 Weatherby Magnum, and I don't know what it is. It's something magical about it.
It's just a good bullet.
Yeah.
Good cartridge.
But yeah, so anyways, today's sponsor is IMR 3130 powder. And if you reload a smaller side of rifle, this would be a very good option if you just want something versatile. Look, when the commies start taking over, or the Democrats, whichever comes first, I don't know who's going to be the first to bring about martial law in the next Civil War. I don't know when you and I are going to end up on that government list.
I know it. I want some 3031, though.
Speaking of EM bounds and what government does to people at times, you may want some 3031 in your closet. Right. And what was that? The little thing you could load a rifle with, load a caliber with?
Lee loader.
A Lee loader.
Yeah.
I watched you do a video with a Lee loader and a hammer.
Yep. Build your own ammo.
Yeah. I've got one of those. I've just never done anything with it.
They're fun to use.
Yeah. What was good about your video is you just like set it up. You just went through all the process, poured your powder in.
Yep.
Took it outside and shot it.
Yep. It's not complicated.
And you don't need a lot of equipment. Just need the components and that.
Yeah. Hammer and a stump. You're in good shape.
I hate to think that it might get to that, but
you never know.
You never know.
That's right.
Yeah. So what do you got coming up? Anything in particular? Anything important? You got any vacations coming up?
No, I already took that. So
wife gone back to work?
Back to school, yeah.
Yeah.
Just finished Vacation Bible School here. Just finished 1 Timothy, so I'm kind of at a crossroad as where I go next. And
don't have any direction on what book?
Not yet. Maybe a few, skip around a little bit.
Yeah.
Till we land.
A few of those topics you've been wanting to cover.
Yeah, and then land in a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your do you guys have Sunday morning and Wednesday, or what's your service schedule?
Sunday school at 10, corporate worship at 11, and then Bible study and prayer meeting on Wednesday nights at 7.
Yeah. Yeah. And you are in the Athens area of Georgia.
We're close to Athens, Redstone, Winder, Jeferson, Commerce.
Yeah.
We're kind of right here in the center of all those.
I get tickled when the way the GPS routed me in coming up from the south. It took me in on my something church road. There's like an east and a west campus, like 2 streets over. It seemed like it started with a C or a G or something.
Galilee Church Road.
Galilee Church Road.
Yeah. So
I come up Galilee Church Road. I hit Highway 11. And I turn on Ebenezer Church Road.
Yeah.
And I remember that Galilee Church Road from the first time you and I were running around. We went and ate barbecue over at that place in Jeferson.
Yep.
And I remember going down these roads, and I'm like, man, it's like everything revolved around a church back then.
Yeah.
The roads were named by the churches that were on them back then.
Mm-hmm.
And you couldn't do that today. That Galilee Church, by the way, that is a massive.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like an east campus and a west campus, but they were not far apart.
Yeah, it was an old sanctuary and then a newer.
Is that what it was?
Sanctuary.
Yeah, but it was quite a spread they had over there.
Yeah.
And
now Satan has come through this area and planted all these roundabouts.
Roundabouts, man. They are of the devil.
They're of the devil.
Dude, that's a British thing.
It has to be. Well, they had to do something because everybody would move out of Atlanta up here to escape. And they didn't know how a 4-way stop worked. They thought the nicest car went first. And so once you had all these wrecks in the intersection.
The nicest car went first.
Yeah. And so they had to stop that. And so they built a roundabout. So
Arkansas is getting roundabouts. They started out in the college campus towns.
Yeah.
You know, where the liberals were.
Yeah.
And the professors like, we need roundabouts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this is nothing but it's a toilet bowl, man.
It's a disaster.
It's a disaster.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't get it. But it seems like anytime they put in a new service road, they stick a roundabout in there. I'm like, y'all are going to get somebody flat killed.
Yeah.
And I hate them.
Yeah.
And you got to go through a couple of them to get here, don't you, from your place?
Every time, yeah. No matter which way you go.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death.
The turnabouts will not get me.
Well, is there anything we hadn't talked about?
I don't think so. We've had a good chat.
Yeah, we've talked about whipping each other fishing. And I'm a little nervous about going back with you because you
Yeah.
put out a few fishing videos.
Yeah.
And does your church have a website? Does it have a Facebook page? You have anything else?
Facebook. Yeah, you
Facebook.
can find some information, sermons on Facebook. Maranatha Baptist Church, Jeferson, Georgia.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the exact link is to it, but you Google that, you'll find us. Yeah.
Well, man, I've enjoyed it.
I have too, brother.
I always enjoy it. I always enjoy getting together with you. Every time you and I get together, we start talking. The first time, I remember calling you, and I was like, hey, I just want to come by and hang out. And we went and ate that real good place that burned down.
Yeah.
And then we just sat around and talked. And the more we talked, you know, you would be like, so what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And we'd be right on.
Separated at birth.
Yeah. I felt that way.
It did.
I felt that way. As a matter of fact, that's David Marshall in Waycross, Georgia. He introduced me last night when I preached. He goes, I feel like he's my brother from another mother.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, I'm like, they're Backwoods Baptists just dotted all over
There is a common thread.
the landscape. We just got to locate each other.
That's right.
And so, Richard, thanks for coming on. If you're still listening, you probably have some cassette tapes in the sound room of your church of pastors in the past that you can't bear to throw away.
Got them.
Even though CDs aren't popular anymore. Hey, we'll see you somewhere in the backwoods.